Hi class, for 10.5, the big skill that we need to get figured out is how to complete the square. And so we're going to have to remember back to a ways ago. And when we were completing the square, the goal was to take an equation, well, like this one right here, and manipulate it so that we can factor things. I guess the best way to start is to just to do the problem. When I complete this square, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3. So let's get some red, and we're going to say plus 3. So there's plus 3 on that side. And then my new equation is a squared plus 2a equals 3. And then here's the part of the completing the square. I'm going to say plus something plus something. And what I want to do is be able to have a perfect square in this area right here. The first step when I complete the square, I'll write these up here, is I'm going to look at my b value, and then from there I'm going to take that b value and do b divided by 2. Once I have the b value, the next step is I'm going to take b divided by 2 and square it. Okay, so in this case my b value is 2, so I'll do 2 divided by 2 and then the quantity squared. Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1, so I'm going to add a 1 right in here, and I'm going to add a 1 right there. Okay, now what I have here is I have a perfect square. So that means that I can say that this whole thing is the same thing as a plus 1 quantity squared, and that equals 4. Voila, the square is completed. Let's take another stab at this and maybe practice number 2. Okay, so what I'm first going to do is I'm going to add this 8. Add 8, okay. So now I have a squared minus 2a plus blank equals 8 plus blank. Okay, and I'm going to take this b value, which is negative 2, so negative 2 divided by 2, and then the quantity squared. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, squared is 1, so plus 1. Plus 1. And now I have a perfect square that looks about like it's going to be a minus 1 squared, and then that all equals 9. There you go. Let's take a look at one more that may be a little bit more interesting. Let's just do number 3 here. So I'm going to do plus 22, and then p squared plus 16p plus something equals 22. And I'm going to take 16 divided by 2 and then square it. So 16 divided by 2 is 8, and 8 squared is 64. So this is going to be plus 64 plus 64. And I have to add that number on both sides because I'm adding things to one side of the equation, and if I want it to remain equal, I have to add it to the other side. Perfect square of this ends up being p plus 8 quantity squared equals, what is that going to be? 86. There you go. That's the first part of this lesson, completing the square. Completing the square stuff is great and all, but how do we apply it to conics? Okay, so here's an example of how we're going to apply this to conics. In this question, we need to find the standard form of each equation by completing the square, then identify and graph each conic. Okay, let's do this. Well, before I get started, what I'm going to want to do is say I need to group my x's and y's, and then I guess we're going to have to do two different sets of completing the square. In other words, my first set is going to be plus 8x, and then the plus blank, and then the other set, let's do the other set in magenta. The other set is going to be plus y squared minus 10y, and then plus blank. And to keep things really running extra smooth, I'm going to do a different color and say this whole thing equals 8, right? Because I took this negative 8 and I did plus 8 here and plus 8 here. So that means I'm going to have to add plus blank in blue and plus blank in pink. Okay, let's work on the x's first. So when we complete the square for this area first, I'm going to take my b value, which is 8, and I'll do 8 divided by 2, and then take that whole thing and square it. And so that gives me 8 divided by 2 is 4, and then squared is 16. So there's 16. And if I add 16 there, I'm going to add 16 over here. Okay. And then on this other version, I have minus 10y. So my coefficient is negative 10. So there's negative 10 divided by 2, quantity squared. All right. Negative 10 divided by 2 is 5 times itself is 25. So I'm going to say plus 25. And then I'm going to add plus 25 here. Okay, and then in blue, what happens here is my perfect square now is quantity squared of x plus 4. Great. And then in magenta or pink, I got the other one, which is plus, and then the quantity squared of y, what's that going to be? Y minus 5 squared. And then this whole thing equals, well, 8 plus 16 plus 25. So what does that end up being? 49. There we go. Okay, so first part up here, completing the square, check. Now we need to identify and graph each conic. Okay, well this conic here, my hunch is that what we've got is a circle. And the reason I want to guess that is because this part right here looks strangely familiar as an r squared, and then this looks like a y minus h squared, and then plus x minus k squared. Okay, so let's figure out how to graph this thing. If I give myself a nice axis like so, and another one, whoop, let's do that again. There we go, nice and straight. Okay, so there's my axis, and I know that what I'm going to have to do is going to go opposite as red for the x value, so to the left 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And then y value opposite as red, so I'm going to go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is the center of my circle. And then from there, my radius is r squared, so that's going to be 7. We went 1, 2, 3, 4 here, 5, 6, 7. There's my first point. And then I'm going to go up 7 here, and down 7 here, and then over 7 here. And then with any luck, let's see if my circle tool will do this. I got a circle right about like so. And that is my graph